All right? So, that continuity between colonialism and post-colonialism, it must be emphasized. All right? And we often think that, the colonial state that we inherited at independence was unproblematic. It was deeply problematic because it was created for one purpose, to extract wealth from the colonized. It was not an instrument to protect you. It was an instrument to oppress you in order to exploit you for the benefit of where the colonialists had come from. How has it changed post-colonial, post-61 or 62? How has the nature of the Ugandan state different today from what it was prior to 1962? And these are questions that we always have to interrogate. What about ideologies and political philosophies? Mwalimu was a professed socialist. He wasn't a Marxist-Leninist like Mugabe, all right? He wasn't a Marxist-Leninist like Samora Machel, some of his political children. He was a Fabian socialist. He was a socialist of the social democratic type, the Western social democratic type. Kenyatta never had anything to do with socialism. Felix Houphouët-Boigny in Cote d'Ivoire, any other African head of state, Mobutu Sese Seko, they were not socialists. They have one thing in common with socialists like Mwalimu: the authoritarian and unaccountable power that they held over their people and their societies. And therefore, speaking strictly of African leaders of the post-colonial period, the one thing that unites them all is their authoritarianism, not their political or ideological courts they wore at one time or another. What they have in common is the oppression of their people. All right? Mwalimu Nyerere, we will perhaps never know, but hundreds, possibly thousands, were detained without trial in his 24 years of office as president. Detention without trial. Even the British colonial state, in its all oppressiveness, never had preventive detention law. That is a creation of independent Tanganyika. Mwalimu borrowed it from Ghana's Nkrumah. Was a preventive detention law was first enacted on the African continent by Kwame Nkrumah in 1960. In 1962, Mwalimu copied it almost word for word from Nkrumah's Ghana. The British never had it. And you cannot say that the colonial state was democratic by any yardstick. It wasn't. But there are certain respects in which the post-colonial state has been even more oppressive of the people than the colonial state ever was. Since we are in Uganda, you remember the 90 days removal order for Ugandan Asians in 1972? Huh? You remember? Ausio? What happened in Tanzania in April of 1971? Under the cover of darkness, and when I say under the cover of darkness, I mean there was absolutely no debate. A law was rushed through the Parliament of Tanzania, under certificate of urgency. It was passed the same day, I think April 20th, 1971. Under that law, the government of Tanzania expropriated the real property, buildings of anyone whose building was valued at 100,000 shillings at that time, roughly around 20,000 pounds, and so on. 90% of them were Asians, were Tanzanian Asians. Within a year, almost 75% of Asians had left the country, penniless. A year later, when Idi Amin and they were given 90 days to leave, where did they go? Some tried to cross the border to Tanzania. They were prevented from getting into Tanzania. They ended up in Sussex in the UK, cities like Leicester and other British cities, and in Canada. So there are things that should make us wonder when we talk of these great men such as Mwalimu. What should I say? What else? What else? And how many minutes do I have? Let's hope I come back to Uganda. I don't have to wait another 11 years to come back here to talk again with the Ugandan students. I will say one thing that we have not mentioned at all: Mwalimu's foreign policy. I think if there is one thing that Mwalimu did us proud, was his progressive foreign policy. His progressive foreign policy. Mwalimu had a position, and his position was always based on principle and moral high ground. Had he been around today, Mwalimu will definitely have something to say about the genocide in Gaza. I have not heard a single head of state, except Cyril Ramaphosa in South Africa, taking a position about the tens of thousands of Gaza residents who have been massacred by.
Here is a lesson too. Konrad Adenauer was also a man of his time. Konrad Adenauer has left us with great legacies that we, as Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, live in our work and like to be associated with. But once again, he was born in 1876. He came and took over the chancellorship in Germany in 1949, being quite an old man by then. And definitely he was a leader who would not only take very popular decisions. Some of his decisions went in contrary to the popular opinion. So yes, the role of the leader is not just to take popular decisions, and sometimes it is also to take decisions that the majority would not in that moment align with. That is the truth about being a leader. And he himself always was saying that power corrupts, and he was not excluding himself. So this is for me also always very important to say when I represent an institution that bears a name of a politician. That's number one. Number two, as I represent again here the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, I would like to read from what our mission statement says, and only a part of it. Through our work, we contribute towards securing and increasing peace, freedom and prosperity in Europe and throughout the world. We stand for personal responsibility, justice, and solidarity. We are firmly committed to liberal representative democracy, the rule of law, the social market economy, and European unification. We are guided by the Christian view of humanity. And if I turn around and read what the mission of Europec is, it is to promote respect for universal human rights, and we also have this in our mission statement: peace, you have heard it, democratic values, and the rule of law through teaching, action-oriented, and strategic research and outreach. And in our mission statement, we also talk about through which means we promote what we stand for. Why do I say this? Because I want to underline that this mission of ours, shaping democracy together, only works if we find partners with whom we can do it together. And this decision is always based whether we find partners in whom we find like-minded people. It does not mean that we need to align in everything and anything, but it does mean that we have certain ideas and certain visions in common. Nowadays, in many countries, partners who work with organizations from the West are called foreign agents. And sometimes my impression is that this term is being used very selectively, because we work with many different organizations, institutions, governments, political parties, civil society actors, academia representatives, from the private sector. And yet, this term is used only for a certain group among them. It is on you to judge and to observe for which one. But it is important for us as a Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, who we stand for democracy, that we do work with the pluralistic society that is reflected and represented in different sectors of the society and, of course, politics as well. And we take pride in having a very diverse landscape of actors in Uganda, but also all over the world. And my third point is just to thank you. Thank you very much, Madam President, for moderating this session. It has not been an easy exercise. We could see all the hands behind us from where I was sitting, and that only shows the interest in such debates and the importance to open up this space for such conversations. And therefore, thank you very much once again to Europec for allowing this, to the School of Law and to the Makerere University, which is one of our partners at Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and we are always very happy to come back to the Makerere University and to work together with different entities at the Makerere universities to open up spaces for critical debate and exchange. Again, thank you very much. And of course, last but not least, Honorable Lisu, dear Tundu, thank you very much for agreeing to stay a bit longer in Uganda, pretty much just for this talk, just to be at the university and talk to the students. With this, Dr. Ruweza and Dr. Kabumba, once again, thank you for hosting us, and it was a pleasure and an honor for us to be here. Thank you.
Yes, we have come to the end of our public lecture and engagement today. Thank you so much for coming. Anna, you mentioned that you can see the enthusiasm that the student community has in such issues, and as I was sitting, I had an idea of a moot court competition on constitutionalism for the students, or something to do with academic writing. I don't know if the students would be open to that partnership with Conrad Adenauer Stiftang. Are you open to that? Yes, okay. So, yes, so we're going to have a group photo. I've been guided, we're going to have a group photo from here. So, move down. Okay, so we're going to come to you, the panelists. We're going to stand there, then they'll take the photo.